The Interstellar Combat Academy of Valthuris Prime was not built for humans. That much was obvious from the moment Nova stepped through its towering obsidian gates, her boots clicking against the polished mineral floor that no human foot had ever touched before hers. The ceiling soared 40 feet overhead. The corridors were carved for beings with 4 arms, or 6 legs, or bodies that moved through space in ways the human nervous system simply could not replicate. The training arena alone, a vast circular chamber ringed with tiered observation decks, was designed to humble even the most decorated warriors of a dozen star systems. Nova was not decorated. She was a cadet. The first human cadet in the Academy's 400-year history. She had earned her place through scores that the admissions committee had quietly debated for 3 weeks before reluctantly accepting. Not because her scores were bad. Because they did not understand them. None of that mattered to Instructor Raxer. Raxer was Valthurian by birth, Chthoni by training, a rare and brutal combination. His species possessed bilateral exoskeletons that could deflect low-caliber plasma rounds. He stood at 9 feet, with 4 upper limbs and a lower body that ended in a wide, armored stance no physical force had toppled in recorded memory. He had trained 17 championship warriors. He had broken 43 cadets, psychologically, not physically, though he would argue the distinction was irrelevant. He had a voice like grinding tectonic plates and a laugh that cadets had been known to flee from. He thought very little of Nova. He had made this known on her first day, when she arrived in the arena with the other cadets for the weapons familiarization exercise. The other recruits, Chthoni, Veldori, one massive Gorvax from the Outer Rim, had each received their ceremonial training weapons, plasma lances, resonance blades, gravity compression gauntlets. Nova had received a standard-issue Academy data pen. It was silver. Retractable. The kind used to sign enrollment forms. Raxer had handed it to her personally, holding it between 2 fingers as though it were an insect. For the human, he had announced to the assembled cadets and the dozen observers watching from the upper deck, "We begin with something appropriate to her capability level." The laughter had echoed off the domed ceiling. Nova had taken the pen. She had said nothing. She had clipped it to the collar of her uniform and stood at attention with the rest of them. Raxer had watched her, waiting for tears, or protest, or the particular look of humiliation he had spent decades perfecting his ability to provoke. He saw none of those things. He saw a young woman with dark eyes and an expression so calm it bordered on clinical, and this annoyed him more than any reaction would have. The weeks passed. Nova drilled with the pen. When others practiced blade forms, she moved through her own sequences with it held between her fingers, or clipped to her knuckle, or balanced flat across her palm. Other cadets mocked her. She did not respond. When asked in theory classes about weapons doctrine, she answered with a precision that silenced even the Gorvax, who had a memory like a geological record. When Raxer gave her physical tasks suited for beings twice her mass, she completed them slower, differently, with adaptations that he told himself were cheating but could not technically disqualify. He did not give her a real weapon. The familiarization exam came on the 43rd day. Every cadet was required to demonstrate combat readiness in the arena before the full Academy staff, the visiting military delegation from 4 allied systems, and the rolling broadcast lenses of the Interstellar Combat Review. It was, historically, the exam that broke cadets. The pressure alone had ended careers before they began. Nova stood at the center of the arena floor. Raxer stood at the edge. He held the data pen up, still silver, still retractable, and crossed the arena floor toward her with the slow, deliberate weight of something that had never been stopped. "The human," he announced to the arena, his voice filling every corner of it, "will demonstrate combat readiness with her weapon of record." He held the pen out to her. Then, before she could take it, he paused. He turned to the observation decks. He let the moment breathe. "It's only a pen," he said. He said it the way someone plants a flag. The laughter came, not all of it, but enough. The visiting delegation exchanged looks. Two of the Academy staff smiled. The broadcast lenses, Nova noted, had pivoted to focus on her face. She took the pen. She clicked it open. 5 seconds passed. The arena went quiet. Not because of the pen. Because of what Nova did with it in those 5 seconds, and what she said while she did it, quietly, without theater, the way someone states a fact that needs no decoration. She had spent 43 days studying Raxer. Not his pride. Not his rank. His body. His species. His bilateral exoskeleton, which deflected plasma and resonance but was, she had learned from 18 different xenobiology texts, acutely sensitive to microvibrational frequency in the 40 kHz range, a frequency that, it turned out, a standard-issue Academy data pen could produce if its internal resonance chamber was retuned, a modification she had completed with a borrowed calibration tool during her 3rd week and concealed from inspection by disguising the frequency signature as a standard document marking function. She held the pen 6 inches from Raxer's left exoskeletal joint, the weakest point of the species, she had confirmed, the junction where the upper and lower plates connected, and she activated it. The sound was nearly inaudible to most species in the room. To Raxer, it was a white-hot line of sensation that traveled from the joint up through his sensory network and involuntarily locked 3 of his 4 upper limbs. He did not fall. He was Raxer. He was 9 feet of battlefield legend. But he stopped. For the first time in his career, in the center of his own arena, in front of his own staff and 4 allied military delegations and the rolling lenses of the Interstellar Combat Review, he stopped. Nova stepped back. She clicked the pen closed. She clipped it to her collar. "Weapons are tools," she said, to the arena and to him, in the same calm voice she had used in theory class. "The pen is a tool. I made it one. That's what humans do." She paused. "Sir," she added. The silence lasted 3 full seconds after that. Then someone in the upper observation deck, one of the visiting delegation, a Veldori general who had fought in 7 conflicts across 4 decades, began to applaud. Slowly. Deliberately. The way someone acknowledges a thing they have just been forced to revise their understanding of. Others followed. Raxer stood in the center of the arena floor with 3 locked limbs and an expression that his former cadets would not have recognized, because they had never seen it on his face before. Respect. Not the manufactured kind. Not the kind given to rank or performance or the ability to overpower something larger than yourself. The kind that comes from being outthought in your own arena, with your own prop, in front of everyone who matters, and knowing it was clean and earned, and there is absolutely nothing to say about it. He looked at Nova for a long time. Then he said, and the broadcast lenses caught every word of it, "Cadet Nova. Your weapon certification is approved." He turned and walked back to the edge of the arena. His locked limbs had begun to loosen. He did not look back. Nova stood at the center of the floor. She did not smile. She did not look at the observation decks or the lenses or the applauding Veldori general. She looked at the pen. She had chosen it in the end. Not because Raxer gave it to her, but because she understood something about humans that 43 days had not managed to explain to anyone watching. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the fastest, or the most durable, or the most ancient. They were not the most feared in open battle or the most elegant in single combat. They were the species that looked at a data pen and saw a weapon. They were the species that spent 43 days being laughed at and used every second of it to prepare. They were the species that showed up to every arena, alien, unfamiliar, designed for someone else, and found the frequency that unlocked the door, because finding that frequency was what humanity, at its core, had always done. Nova clipped the pen to her collar and walked off the arena floor. Behind her, the applause was still building.